Hey gang, this is my Bilt Hard oscillating pedestal fan, and this is actually the third one that I've bought, and I just wanted to share with you what I really like about it, some of the best features, as well as do a detailed assembly so that you can see how to put it together when you get yours. So first off, one of the things I like about it, it's got a really wide pedestal base. This is about 23 inches, so you want to keep that in mind if you've got a small space, but what this does is it makes it very unlikely to tip over. So I wanted something that was really sturdy. And then of course I wanted a good sized fan that moved a lot of air, and the Bilt Hard comes in, I believe, an 18, a 20, a 24 inch, and even a 30-inch size. So you can get plenty of air movement from that if you need a bigger fan. Up here, I'm going to turn the oscillating part of it off. With that switch right there, it's just a simple on and off. There's no remote control to this, which I kind of like because I feel like if I lose the remote, I'd be screwed. But this is the fan speed control. You can see it's got a low, medium, and a high. So then go back to low so you can hear me a little bit better. Down here at the bottom, this knob, and I go into these controls a little bit more detailed in the instructions, but if I loosen this one up, that allows me to turn the fan on the pedestal shaft there. And if I tighten it up, obviously it keeps it from turning. I tend to keep mine just barely snug so that I can turn it if I need to. But if you loosen it up too much, the fan will just lift right off of the pole here. This nut on the carriage bolt here, this nut is to help keep it from tilting or not tilting, I guess, tilting the other way, tilting down. You may need to loosen or tighten that just a little bit, but I find once I've got it in the right spot, I can still adjust the fan and it holds everything in place really well. So those are the features and the controls. Now let me just show you how to do an assembly on this. So here are all the pieces to the fan that when you take it out of the box, this is what it's going to look like. Now I want to point out it doesn't come with any tools. I just brought those out to show you what you'll need to put it together, but let's do a quick rundown here. So you've got the fan, and in this case, this is the 20-inch Bilt Hard, and then you've got the front and the back fan shroud, and then this is the motor. It's actually quite heavy, and but it's not that hard to assemble. This is where the pedestal will mount on it, and I'll show you all the adjustments on that in a minute. And then over here, you've got the pedestal. And what's nice is this is about 23 inches wide. So keep that in mind if you've got a small space, but it makes it really stable. And then the post mounts in here, and you've got a little decorative cover, and these are the bolts to mount the post, and then you've got some instructions. Now, like I said, the tools don't come with it, and at a minimum, you're going to need just a standard size Phillips head screwdriver. That's the one that looks kind of like a 4-point star, and an adjustable wrench. If you've got a 10-millimeter wrench, or even better, a 10-millimeter socket and a ratchet, that's going to make things a little bit easier, but it's not necessary. And last but not least, if you need to tighten up the adjustment a little bit, a 19-inch wrench, or of course you can use the adjustable. So it really doesn't take many tools. And so now let me show you how to. All right, so the first part of assembly fan is to put together the pedestal. So you can see I've got the base here, and then we've got the post. The post has 4 holes in it that match up with the base, and so we're going to put it on like that, and then we're going to put the bolts through and put nuts on the other side and tighten them up to make up the base. So a little bit tricky if you're doing it by yourself, but if you get the bolt, you put it through there, and I'm just kind of holding it like this. So I've got my hand to hold this and that, and I'm going to lift up the base, nuts that's going to go on the other side, and I'm just going to line up this hole, and I'm going to finger tighten this nut onto this bolt like that, which is going to make it a lot easier because now I can let go. And I'm just going to work my way around, and I'm going to put all of these bolts and nuts and pedestal, and then I'm going to use the 10-millimeter ratchet and the crescent wrench. Actually, I'm going to use the 10-millimeter ratchet and the Phillips head screwdriver to tighten those up. So I'll show you that when I get to that point. All right, so I've got all the bolts in and the nuts on them, and they're just finger tight. And now I'm going to take the Phillips head screwdriver, and I'm going to use the 10-millimeter socket on a ratchet. And on this side, I can either use a wrench or the screwdriver. I just think it's easier. So I'm going to use the screwdriver to hold this bolt while I put the ratchet on this side. Gotta get the right direction here. I put the ratchet on this side, and just tighten it up. And then I'm just going to work my way around. They're all nice and snug. All right, so I've got all of those. Sorry, I keep dropping tools and making noise. I've got all of those in and tight. And next we want to put a trim ring that's going to cover this. So we're going to undo this, we'll call it a nut there, but it's just going to right down. And that's just going to cover that. It doesn't attach or anything. It's just going to sit there. So now I'm going to put this back on. This is how you adjust the pedestal height, and this is the locking nut to keep it from moving up and down. So if I loosen it, it can go up and down, and if I tighten it, it pretty much locks it into place. So let me put it down a little bit, because the next step, we're going to put the motor onto the pedestal. So let me grab that. And this is super simple. You don't need any tools. You're just going to want to loosen this up, and this post is going to go right in here, and you just want to make sure that that's loose, and it's just going to slip on. And then you tighten this up, so just tighten it up, and now this part of it won't move. I tend to leave it loose, just so that I can, when I want to change the angle of the fan, if this is loose, it's just easier to do that. The other thing is this right here. This is a 19 millimeter nut, and on this side it's just called a carriage bolt, so you don't have to worry about this side. But sometimes when I bought these, it's a little bit loose, and so the adjustment is tight. You can take a 19 millimeter wrench, or you can just take an adjustable wrench, and you can tighten this up, or you may even need to loosen it a little bit just to give you some easier movement in the sort of the tilt feature. And then next we need to put on the back shroud, then we're going to put on the fan blade, and then we're going to put on the front shroud. So let me show you how to do that. All right, so the next thing we're going to put on is going to be the back fan shroud, and you can tell it's the back because it's got the hole in the middle and it's got a handle at what should be the top. And what we're going to do is these four holes right here line up with the 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock position on the fan. There's already screws in there, so the first thing you have to do is take those four screws out. Then you put this over it, and you're going to put those four screws back in, and that will hold the back fan shroud in place. So I'll do that real quick. If you have a cordless drill, that makes this very handy. Be careful not to drop these screws into the motor, because they can be, I'm sure they're very difficult to get out once they do that. All right, so I've got the screws at the 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock position out. I've actually got one here on the tip of the screwdriver. I don't know how well you can see that, but I've got the handle of the back of the fan shroud at the top, and so you can see the hole. I'm just going to put this over here, and I'm going to line up this first hole, and I'm just going to get that first screw in there, just kind of hand tight, so it will hold the shroud in place. And then I'm just going to go around, and I'm going to put the other three screws in at the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock position. And then I'll tighten them up really good, and that will be the back of the fan shroud. Next, we've got to put the fan blades on, and they're going to go on that shaft right there. And I did want to mention that there's a little rubber sleeve that it gets shipped with just to protect it from getting damaged. You can take that off and throw it away. But when you're looking at the fan, on the back of the fan, you can see right here, there's a bolt, and that bolt is what you'll tighten down, and it will clamp down on the shaft of the motor. So you're going to need a 10 millimeter wrench or your adjustable wrench, so that you can, or even your ratchet and socket. You want to loosen that up until it no longer is blocking the passage through the hole. And remember, I said this is the back. And now there's a little flat spot on the shaft right here. Once you have that flat spot revealed, so you can easily see it, you're just going to slide this on until that bolt, when you tighten it up, will go into that little flat spot. And I'm actually going to use the screwdriver here to tighten this up. Make sure you get that good. All right, so the last thing we've got to do is put the front shroud on, and there's a couple of things that I think can be a little bit difficult sometimes. So first off, at the top here, you've got this clip, and that's going to go at the top, middle of the handle, but you'll see this down bar. It'll kind of straddle that. At the bottom, they've also got a small screw and a nut. You're going to want to take that off, but the hole it goes through should line up with this hole right here, and you can put those two together and tighten them up. And then around the rest of it, you're going to put these clips on. And a little secret here. You might want to have a pair of needle nose pliers or maybe a screwdriver. I find that sometimes that I have to just bend this just a little bit so that I can get it to close. And then this is pretty typical of all the fans I've ever put together. These can sometimes be just a little bit challenging to say the least. So I'm going to give it a shot here and I'll come back when I'm done. So, and that's it. Now the shroud is on. So there you have it. This is my Bilt Hard oscillating fan, and as I mentioned previously, this is the third one that I've bought. So I've just been really happy with it, and I think you will be too. I don't think it's very loud. I actually keep one in my bedroom on the hot summer days, and it's perfect background noise for me to sleep in. And it's just a much sturdier fan than I think some of the other ones that I've tried out. So I hope you like it.